Maybe you can give an example of how chiropractic differs from the allopathic medical model, which we all need, right?
Yeah.
And I'm glad we got it.
This is one of my favorite patient education tools. It's a low-budget operation, right?
Yeah,
So
I love it.
This is all you really need to help people understand how the body really works and how the body really heals. And I think it's a perfect metaphor for chiropractic and for people to understand exactly what we do. So, though it's a very simple exercise. If you take a rubber band and you just wrap it around your fingers twice like this on the second knuckle.
Yep. This is good.
This starts a problem, right? So, obviously what's happening here is we're cutting off the flow of life to this tissue, right? So distal to this problem, you end up seeing, there's a choking off of blood flow, but metaphorically, let's say it's choking off the life flow to the tissue, right?
Okay, yeah.
So if we take this problem to, let's bring it to the medical practitioner and say, okay, so I've got this problem, I've got some kind of numbness and stiffness going on in my fingers.
Yep.
So the first thing, in modern healthcare we want to do is we want to name it. We need a diagnosis, right?
Okay.
So we're more comfortable if we can name something, right? So
yeah, for sure.
A group of symptoms come together, we categorize it as some sort of, we give it a diagnosis, right?
We love a diagnosis.
Yeah,
right?
we love a diagnosis, right? So we're going to call this acute adult onset idiopathic fingeritis.
Got it.
Okay,
Say that again.
Yeah, so it's acute. It happened right away.
Okay.
Right, it's adult onset,
Yes.
and fingeritis, right? It's swollen fingers, right? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to name it, and then we start a treatment protocol for it. So it's like, well, why don't we try doing some massage therapy for this, right? So we rub it out. Oh yeah, doc, that feels much better.
Okay.
And it's like, once you come back in 2 weeks, and we'll take a look at it and we'll see how you're doing. So you come back in 2 weeks, and man, this thing is paining you.
Yeah,
right? It's
I
just
bet,
throbbing. Right? It's painful, right?
Yeah,
This
yeah.
tissue's dying, right?
Yeah.
So it's killing you. So it's like, all right, so what we can do is we can give you some physical therapy for that. We'll get that stiffness and work that out. It's like, oh man, actually, yeah, that feels much better now.
Yeah.
It's moving. Great. All right, so come back in 2 weeks, and we'll see how you're doing. So the patient goes back in 2 weeks, and of course, this is now
nasty,
problem, right? It's nasty. So this is just pounding. It's in great pain. It's like, you know what? Let's give you some painkillers for that, right? And you start taking the painkillers. Actually, it stops hurting. You're like, oh, it's so much better now.
And it makes sense as well, right?
Oh yeah, it doesn't hurt anymore. No more finger problem, right?
Yeah.
So of course you go away, come back in 2 weeks, and doc, this has gone sideways, right? So tissue's black, fingernails falling off. It smells bad. This is like you had a terrible infection going on there. So they try antibiotics, right?
Okay.
So see if we can treat the infection. Come back in 2 weeks. And of course, everything's worse, right?
Yeah.
So this is going downhill fast. So you have to go see the fingeritis expert down the hall. Of course, he takes out the scalpel and no more finger problem.
Right. Yeah, I can see the analogy. Yeah.
So obviously, that sounds ridiculous when you put it that way, but unfortunately, it's more true than not true, right? The approach that they take. This is like ultimately, the problem that you're treating is not the problem at all. It's a symptom. And it's a symptom downstream from a problem, right? Without addressing the symptom, without addressing the problem, you're just treating symptoms.
Yeah.
So in chiropractic, we take a totally different approach, right? So first and foremost, we want to find what the cause is, right? So if you have a symptom, there's a symptom and there's a problem, okay? You can't get rid of a symptom or a condition until you find out what's causing the problem, right? So we look for the cause. We're DCs, doctors of chiropractic. We like to say we're doctors of cause. We want to find out what's causing the problem. So we do an examination. We discover that there's something that's cutting off the flow of life into this tissue. So instead of just treating the symptoms, we get to the cause, and we reduce the interference to the flow of life to the tissue.
The
metaphorically.
system. Yeah.
So the flow of life is obviously the nerve supply, nervous system. In this situation, it's obviously blood flow, but there's also nerve supply here as well.
Sure, yeah.
So as a chiropractor, you look for the cause. Where is there a breakdown in the flow of life and that's keeping the tissue healthy and healing? And we start to reduce that with a series of very specific chiropractic adjustments, reduce the pressure, let the nerve supply flow, the flow of life back into that tissue.
So good.
And the body gets back to doing what it does best, healing
itself.
and getting back to health,
Yeah,
right?
right, excellent.
Which is what it does. The body heals itself.